Today, we preview the 2025 Philadelphia Phillies with Jack Fritz. You're listening to the Bucko Banter podcast brought to you by the Just Baseball Media Network. Cue the music.
Rockin' 101, she compliment my taste. Whiskey in my lemonade, cause I like the way it tastes. Best seats at the Pirates game, they let me run the base. Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates. Order steak by the plates, and in case after case, run my race at my pace, clear the grass of the snake.
Welcome back to another episode of Bucko Banner. We got another team preview. We're starting NL East this week. And, who better to start with than our neighbor from across the state? We've got Jack Fritz from Philly Radio joining us. Jack, welcome on the Bucko Banner.
It's good to be here. I wish the Pirates were still in the NL East like it was back in the day. There's
That would be
there's
nice.
something about Pittsburgh and Philadelphia that, there's that natural, like it's basically a different world on the western side of the state.
Yeah.
I think it's more, you guys are really Ohio. I'm being honest.
Don't say that.
You
All right.
might as well be Ohio. No, but excited to be here. And man, we're 27 days from opening day. I can't wait.
Absolutely. We're excited, man. Let's talk some Phillies baseball. 2024, 95 and 67, first in the NL East. Not too busy of an offseason, but let's go through it real quick. Via free agency, they added Joe Ross, Max Kepler, Jordan Romano, and then via trade, Jesus Luzardo, Devin Sweet, and then they lost Austin Hayes, Spencer Turnbull, Carlos Estevez, Jeff Hoffman, and then they lost via trade Tyler Gilbert, Starling Caba, and Scott Kingery. How are we grading this offseason?
I would give it a solid C plus. I mean, they didn't really do anything crazy. Like Romano is an interesting bounce back candidate. Obviously, we know how good he was for 3 years there in the AL. Arguably the top three closer in the American League for a good stretch there. How healthy is he? I mean, he was 96 to 98 yesterday in his first outing and struck out a couple. So that's a good sign. Now that could be first outing of spring training, a little bit of adrenaline rush.
Right.
So how good is he? If he's good, great. He's pretty much a swing guy in the bullpen. If he's the closer, bang, you're in a good spot. Kepler, again, I've never been the biggest Max Kepler guy, but he has had 20+ home run seasons in the big leagues before, and he was banged up last year. Like it's a lot of risk on these kind of 1-year deals in big spots. Like they're not just part-time players. They're anticipating Max Kepler being their starting left fielder and playing every single day, and they're expecting, I believe, Jordan Romano to be their closer. So it's pretty big swings on bounce back candidates, but at the same time, I like that Max Kepler only wanted a 1-year deal and Jordan Romano only wanted a 1-year deal so they could reestablish their market and get back out there. The one that I'm really excited about is Luzardo. I've loved Jesus Luzardo. I can't believe he's like 27, but I feel like Jesus Luzardo has been in our lives for 10 years.
Yeah.
He was the number one. He was traded for Blake Trinan, or if it was Blake Trinan and Luzardo to the A's, or like it was just, that trade feels like it was forever ago.
Yeah.
And former number one prospect in baseball, had a really good year 2 years ago. Last year, battled injuries. Again, they're taking a lot of shots on some bounce back guys. So Luzardo, I'm really excited about, but when you win 95 games and you get bounced in the first round and you don't really change much, it's hard to give it this huge A plus. It kind of feels like an incomplete and a lot of hoping heading into the season.
Yeah, Max Kepler was a guy that was actually rumored to the Pirates for a while. I thought, because we've been needing to upgrade the corner outfield. Then he went to Philly. I was kind of surprised by that. But when he's healthy, he can provide good defense, and I feel like everyone's always projecting more with the bat. With Jesus Luzardo, though, this is one of the best rotations of baseball, top to bottom. I think it's very complete, and you got a number one pitching prospect in Andrew Painter coming up eventually. He's coming back from Tommy John. Does this allow him to slowly come back, bringing in a guy like Luzardo? You also have Ranger Suarez. You've got Taijuan Walker, who's on, 4 or 5 year deal still. Yeah.
He could go.
Yeah, he could go. I'm sure a lot of people from Philly would say that. But, does this allow Painter to slowly come back and ease back into this rotation whenever he's ready?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Dave Dombrowski has talked a couple of times this offseason, and he's actually using the Paul Skeens model for what the Pirates did last year with Skeens, where he wants to bring him up in July. He doesn't want to rush him. And what I find so interesting is what they're going to do when he does arrive, because I don't think they want to make him a bullpen guy. I don't think they want to start him there because they're going to limit his innings as much as they can. I think they want to establish him as a starter. But theoretically, if they're healthy, they already have five guys, and then there's Andrew Painter. So, and you mentioned Taijuan Walker. Taijuan Walker's like the seventh guy. They already have Wheeler, Sanchez, Nola, Ranger, and then Luzardo. So that's the five, and then you have Painter coming along too. So, do they go six man? But Zach Wheeler doesn't like a six-man rotation because it gets him out of rhythm. Now they could just bump him up to where he's on the normal 5-day stretch. But how now? This obviously barring any injuries, if these guys are all healthy, it's a good problem to have. But I'm really fascinated to see how they're going to kind of manage his innings because he's ready. I mean, he's coming back from Tommy John. He's one of the best pitching prospects in the sport, and they expect him to be a big part of the season. It's just not going to be until July. So they're definitely going to slow play it. He's not even pitching in spring training. He's just throwing, and I think they'll get him on a AAA mound here. To probably they might not even start that until April. They're definitely slow playing Andrew Painter, and barring any injuries to the rotation, I don't think we'll see him until July.
Nice. Let's shift gears back to the lineup real quick. I just wanted to go through the Fangraphs lineup projected right now and get your opinion on this. Leading off at shortstop, they got Trey Turner, of course, DH Kyle Schwarber, first base Harper, third base Bohm, right field Castellanos, second base Stott, catcher Real Muto, left field Kepler, center field Marsh. How are you feeling about that projected lineup? Usually, I mean, I'm kind of used to Schwarber in that leadoff spot, get that quick 1-0 go. Is that going to change this year, or you see any holes here?
Well, so I think it's going to change. They've been telegraphing for a little bit that they want Turner to lead off because I think they view it as getting the best version of Trey Turner is getting him at the top of the lineup, get him on base. Maybe it helps him see more pitches because that's been a problem for Trey is he's just been chasing a lot and hasn't been getting hasn't been walking as much as I think they would have liked. So I think they're going to try Trey there. They only gave it 15 games in 2023 before they moved off of it and tried Stott and then eventually got back to Schwarber. So I think they're going to give it more runway. Now the problem with that lineup for me is Harper batting third. For me, Harper has to be batting second. Like Harper batting second after Trey just makes more sense than him batting third after Schwarber.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why I was because I'm a Schwarber leadoff guy. Like I fought that fight for a long time here in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia, while I love it with all my heart, is a very old school baseball city. So the idea of having a slow leadoff hitter that only hits home runs and does not steal bases took a long time for people to come around on. So I am very pro Schwarber in the leadoff spot. But if you want to change this up, put Turner there, put Harper second, put Schwarber 4, because you need like the biggest thing that has sunk the Phillies, in my opinion, in the postseason the last couple of years. Now, their two biggest bullpen arms choked last year in the Mets series, so that notwithstanding, but Harper just gets pitched around when he starts going off, and they have not had the guys behind him that have made other teams pay for that. So Bohm 2 years ago in the Diamondback series was brutal. Castellanos in 22 was brutal. And by putting at least Schwarber there, it does put some thought in the back of opposing managers' minds of, listen, we cannot pitch around Harper because we have a 40 home run guy, behind him. So my only problem with that projected lineup is Harper batting 2. So hopefully that happens. He's batting 2 today, thank God. But and then everything else from there, what kind of season do we get from Alec Bohm? I think it's going to be really interesting. He's either going to be batting third in my projected lineup or fourth in the lineup that Fangraphs put out. This is a guy who was in trade rumors all offseason. He got benched in game 2 of the NLDS, and he was, from that moment on, it seemed like his days were numbered in Philadelphia. But he's back. And what kind of mindset are we getting? Are we getting mopey, sad that they were thinking about trading him, or are we getting motivated? Are we getting a guy that wants to stick it to the team and say, hey, I can't believe you were thinking about trading me? So, he was really good for the beginning of last year, like first 2 months of the year. He's on pace for like 150 RBIs, and then he got hit in the hand, and his season kind of cratered after that. So it's a good lineup. I don't think it's a great lineup. The biggest thing they had to change was their approach. Their approach is brutal. They just chased all the time, and like if you watch that Mets series, it was excruciating. It's the same thing that sunk them against the Diamondbacks. So if they can change their approach and work pitchers and think the whole field rather than just home runs or strikeouts, that could be the key to unlocking it, but I can't sit here on February 28th and say, like, I got to see it more before I believe it.
Right. Let's go into the arms here. The rotation we kind of talked about: Zach Wheeler, Sanchez, Nola, Suarez, and Lazarda as the projected rotation via Fangraphs. I mean, you've got some guys coming up too with Painter, like we said, Mick Abel. You got guys like Tyler Phillips, Michael Mercado, who could come up being bullpen, make spot starts. But then in the bullpen, you got Romano, Strom, Kirkering, Alvarado, Ruiz, Tanner Banks, Joe Ross, and Taijuan Walker is a long man. I think it's top heavy, it seems like to me at first glance. And I'm a big fan of Kirkering. Mm-hmm. Is he a guy that you could see potentially closing if the Romano experience doesn't work out?
100%. I think he is the swing guy in the bullpen. I think if Kirkering takes another leap this year, and he took a big leap last year. He was really, really good. But if he can go from, like, this is interesting, pitching more seventh innings rather than super high leverage spot. If he can go from good in lower leverage spots to, like, figuring out in low leverage spots like he was last year to, okay, he's a high leverage guy now, it completely shifts the bullpen. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to be really good. He's been on that trajectory for a while, but they just feel an arm short. Like, they just, in looking at that bullpen, like, they lost Hoffman and Estevez and only brought in Romano. And, like, Strom pitched out of his mind last year. He was, like, the Phillies had 2 middle relievers make the All-Star team, which is insane. Like, you never see that. So Strom pitched out of his mind. I think he's going to be good. I don't think he's going to be as good as he was last year. Good pitcher. Alvarado is a total wild card. He had been super overworked in 2022 and 2023 as they were trying to win the World Series. But last year he took a step back. Now he was good yesterday in his spring debut, but still a lot of bullets have been used in that arm the last couple of years. Can that hold up? And then you get to the Kirkering and Romano. Like, there's just more question marks than I would like heading into the season. Now maybe it's a deadline thing. Deadline comes around, they take care of it there. They've done it the last couple off seasons, but Jose Ruiz is not a high leverage arm for me. He's like a 5th, 6th inning guy. Tanner Banks, no. I mean, they've been trying to prop up Tanner Banks since they got him. I don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. And the Painter thing does factor in here as well. Again, I don't think they're going to put him in the bullpen, but does someone else go to the bullpen at that point if they cannot make a trade for someone like Ranger? Ranger he closed out the NLCS against the Padres a couple years ago. He was their closer at one point in 2021. So, do they put Ranger in that spot? Although he's on a contract year, so maybe he won't want to do that. I have no idea, but I look at the bullpen and to me, they feel an arm short.
Speaking of Ranger, is there any concern on how he finished the year last year? Because the first half of the season was unbelievable, unhittable. And then the second half, not so much. Was there something that they pinpointed? And is that a concern going into this season with him in their starting rotation?
Yeah, so he's never been a guy that can handle a big workload. It's been a couple of years now where he can really only handle like 140 innings. And then he has little things that just start acting up. And the last couple of years, it's been the back. Last year, people attribute his downfall to getting hit on the wrist on a comebacker. I just don't buy that. Yeah, I think that's more of an excuse than anything else. I think he has little nagging injuries that have kind of haunted him. So his big thing has been handling the workload. Now, what's interesting for Ranger is last year, I think he put a lot more work in the offseason to make sure he can hold up. And I assume that this year he's doing the same because he needs to prove he can pitch 170, 180 innings if he wants the contract that I think he thinks he deserves. And he is now being represented by Scott Boras. So, Scott Boras is right, trying to make sure Ranger is in as good a physical condition as he can be heading into the year. So there's definitely concern about if he can hold up. It seems like every year we just put him on the phantom IL for like 3 weeks, to where we can just buy him some time. But the funny thing about Ranger is during the middle of the season, he starts struggling a little bit, gets hit around. And then for some reason, when the postseason comes around, he has been absolutely money in the biggest games. Even last year when he was terrible in the second half, he still pitched like 5 innings of 1-run baseball against the Mets in the deciding Game 4. So he's an interesting one. When he's good, he's great. When he's off, he looks like a quad A pitcher.
Absolutely. He was a guy that I thought they might even try to deal in the offseason going into his walk here and try to
Me
acquire a
too.
bat. So, but yeah, big fan of Ranger. Let's talk about prospects. I think this team has some prospects, especially near big league ready. Is there someone specifically that you're excited about, maybe outside of Andrew Painter, that could contribute this year, or just be a guy that you're excited to follow?
Well, my guy's been Aiden Miller for a couple of years, and that's a chalk answer. But when they drafted him, I think I melted down on our live pod, just so excited about him. So he's been my guy for a long time. Another name that's starting to pop though is Gabriel Rincones Jr.
He's
He's
had a
had a
big
big
spring.
spring so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's hit a couple home runs. He was a second round pick a couple of years ago, but has struggled to stay healthy. So those two guys, and then Moises Chassé, I think, is actually their second best pitching prospect behind Andrew Painter. I know Mick Abel's the big name because he's the former first rounder, but Chassé was a guy that they stole from the Orioles last year in the Gregory Soto trade. Like Gregory Soto,
Oh.
brutal, absolutely
Yeah.
brutal. And they traded him to the Orioles for Seth Johnson and Moises Chassé, and Chassé's top 7 prospect in the organization right now. So
Wow.
they're starting to come along. It's been a slog here with getting some talent. They're a little bit top heavy, but you have Miller, you have Crawford, you have Painter, you have Chassé. They trade away Starlin Caba, who I was high on, but if I can get Jesus Luzardo, 2 years of Jesus Luzardo, I'll do that any single day of the week for a 19-year-old shortstop. But it's slowly coming along. They got some things in the works down there. I hope that Gabriel Rincones can do some things.
Jack, what about a pick to click? Somebody who's going to be a main contributor for the team that's going to help this team take it to the next level, or just someone you're looking forward to contributing this year?
Yeah, and this might be just overreacting to spring training a little bit, but I've loved what I've seen from Brandon Marsh so far at the plate. He's been a guy that they have not wanted to play against lefties because they didn't think he could do it. I mean, he had a double off of Rodon yesterday. I mean, hold on, Carlos Rodon, by the way. Johan Rojas took him deep to the opposite field yesterday. That's a disaster if I was a Yankees fan. So, but I think Marsh has had a really like his at bats so far in spring. They look like the at bats that you want to see if if you really believe that a team can change their approach. He's working much deeper counts. He's worked a couple 3-2 counts. He's fouling off pitches, not striking out a ton, and he's still. Because he's been around so long, like in the prospect ranks, you forget how young he is. I mean, he's still like 26 years old. I think
Yeah.
this could be the year that Brandon Marsh really puts it together. He has weird seasons. I mean, his first 2 months are always like, wow, this guy an all-star. And then he like just forgets how to hit for 2 months. And then kind of figures it out at the end. And then it ends right around the 250 mark. But I think this could be the year that Marsh puts it all together. So I've been really impressed with him in spring and hope it translates.
Yeah, I remember him coming up through the Angel system. It was him and Joe Adell were their 2 top outfield prospects. And I love Marsh in Philly because I feel like he really embraces just
He does.
all Philly. So,
He does.
which is big if you're playing for the Phillies. How about the biggest what if for this team going into the season?
The biggest what if for me is it's a bit of a chalk answer, but again, like can their approaches actually change? Like
Sure.
the first thing they said after the season was we're gonna have tougher conversations about our offensive approach. Like, oh, that's adorable. We're gonna really have some sit down conversations to talk about like, hey, if the slider's sliding, maybe don't swing at it. So if they can really do that, then I think you can see this team take off. Last year they got off to the unbelievable start, and then after the Brewers series in June, they played like 500 baseball for 2.5 months. So, how do they come out? I think it's gonna be really interesting. I don't think they want to come out like they came out last year and just try to win the World Series in May. So maybe it's a little bit of a slower start, but I think the thing that a lot of people are watching for and it keeps them up at night is can this offense not chase? Can Trey not chase? Can Castellanos not chase? Can Brandon Marsh not strike out all the time? Is Stockton like if the offense is a lot of big names, but it's a lot of names that haven't lived up to the hype. Like I think if you were an outsider looking in, you'd be like, man, that offense is something. That's a problem. But
Yeah.
watching them night to night, they're infuriating sometimes. So can they actually make the adjustments that they need to make heading into October, when the book has been out since the Diamondbacks changed how they pitched to them in the middle of a series 2 years ago, and they haven't changed the lineup since, really. I know they had a Max Kepler, but they have not changed the lineup at all. So I think that's the biggest thing. The biggest what if is, can they really implement, can a team of established big leaguers change how they've gotten to the big leagues at this point in their career?
Awesome. Good stuff. Jack, before we let you go, let's get a prediction. Could be an end result, record, whatever you want it to be, but what's your Philadelphia Phillies 2025 prediction?
All right, let's get specific here. I'm telling you, it's going to be mid-July. They're going to be hovering around 500, and they're going to say, screw it, Schwarber's back in the leadoff spot. And their biggest deadline acquisition, they're going to tell us, is Andrew Painter. So those are the two locks. We're going to lock that one in. I can feel it in my bones. And then they get hot. Everyone's mad about the Schwarber leadoff thing, but they start winning games again. And then people like me will tell you that he's actually a good leadoff hitter. And then I think they win the wild card. I think they get a home wild card round. They win that. I think this ends in the NLCS. I do. I think I'm at the point where I'm not World Series or bust. I'm not trying to get my hopes too high. But if you can make the NLCS, give the Dodgers a competitive series, I'll take it. I'll take it. So I think they make the NLCS, and I think they follow the Dodgers. But it is a frustrating first 2.5 months of the season.
That's very specific. I love it. I thought you were going to say their biggest acquisition is going to be Luis Robert or something like that, but Andrew, that's pretty funny.
I tried to sell the city on Luis Robert last year, and people weren't buying it. Okay. I still believe, though.
There we go.
Awesome. Well, Jack, we appreciate you taking the time to join us, and hopefully we could have you on the show maybe this season to preview the classic poop game. So.
Well, it's done. They changed the score bug. So
is that just a score bug in Philly, or is that just generally?
Well, I don't know what the Pirate score bug is, but at least in Philadelphia, it's no longer the poop games. It's PHI and then PIT. So it's over.
That's unfortunate.
Terrible.
All good things have to come to an end.
Listen, we used to be a country. We used to be able to have fun in this country. And the poop game was just beautiful. So listen. I hope the Pirates are good, man. I think the rotation is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And who in their right mind let Paul Skeens learn a two-seamer? That's not right.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It's scary hours with him, man. It's awesome. But all right, Jack, we'll let you get out of here. Thanks again.
Appreciate it, Jack.
Thanks, guys.
Best seats at the Pirates game, they let me run the base. Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates or the steak by the plates. And